if you want respect, you got to give respect, no matter who it is. And I also attribute that to my dad, who always told me, he said, son, always remember this. He said, always be kind and respectful to the little people. Now, he didn't mean that in a demeaning way. It was just his way of saying this. But he said, they're the ones that make you strong. He said, they're the ones that look up to you. They're the ones that appreciate who you are. It's not the people on top that are looking to cut your legs out. And I learned that from being in mob. You know, you don't want to, you know, people at the top level, they're always worried that maybe you're looking for their position. All right, so Sam, I've been getting so many questions about Franzese wine, you know, the origin, how it started. A lot of people are seeing progress because in different cities and towns across the country, Franzese wine is popping up. And I think the story is very unique and how you and I got together, and I want to let people know, and then I want to hear what you have to say about it. And I think, especially in these times, it's very interesting for people how a business gets started, how a relationship gets started, how things progress, because we are coming into some tough times. And it's an interesting story. We started this 2 years ago. And for all of you out there, let me tell you how it started. I think maybe about 5 years ago, I got an email from this young man, and I do say young man, he was 19 years old. And interesting email, he said, Mr. Michael, very respectful, I'd like to have lunch with you if you have the time. And the way he wrote the email was really interesting to me. And I said, okay, I'm going to give this young man a time to have lunch with me. So he drove down from Sacramento, about a 7-hour drive to where I am here in Southern California. And I told him, I have 30 minutes. Well, the 30 minutes turned into 3 hours, I believe. And one of the things that he said to me that really struck me, he said, you know, Mr. Michael, I've been following you since I'm 10 years old. Now, why did that strike me? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not an athlete. I certainly don't sing. I'm not in that category at all. And I said, for anybody at 10 years old to be looking up to somebody who really just has a story, and some things to say, it was very impressive. So now cut to 9 years later, and we're sitting down and we're meeting. It was a very kind of intense conversation because you were really interested in things that I had to say, and I saw that. You had questions prepared. You really wanted knowledge. Very impressive. So from that point, we became kind of friends. We stayed in touch. And then 3 years after that, you contacted me about this industry, the wine industry, and how your relative has a vineyard in Armenia. And by the way, I didn't know anything about Armenian wines at that point. And how you wanted to introduce Armenian wines to the United States, and you wanted to brand it in my name, which was interesting to me because, again, I'm not a celebrity. I do have a following, obviously. I do have a story. So I said, Sam, why would you want to do that? And he told me a story that I later backed up and did research on and found out that it was very true, in that when Noah's Ark landed, and everybody knows I'm a Christian, and I'm certainly into my scripture. For 2.5 years when I was in solitary, I probably read my Bible, I don't know, 100 times. If you see my Bible from the whole, there's more of my notes on there than there is scripture. So I'm very familiar, obviously, with Old Testament, New Testament. What you told me, Sam, was that when Noah's Ark landed and the flood subsided, it landed at the foot of Mount Ararat, which is part of Armenia. And the first vineyards, wine vineyards, were grown there as part of the new civilization. It was transforming. Wine in itself is transforming, the whole process, you know, from the seed in the ground to how it becomes this amazing drink. You know, the process, I'm fascinated by it. And he said, Mr. Michael, you have a story of transformation. And rather than a celebrity or a sports figure, we really think this fits. And it had meaning to you, meant something. And I did my research. I tasted the wine, which I enjoyed very much. I told you that, Sam, if we do this, I want this price so everybody can enjoy it. I'm not up in the stratosphere with things that I put out there. And we agreed, and we came together and we made a deal. And that was 2 years ago. And a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, a lot of God's grace, I think, and we're having some real success. So having said that, let me give you the stage now and let you answer to some of that, and let people know how you saw this.
Well, thank you, Mr. Michael, and I want to thank everybody in the audience because for all their support and helping us get this thing off, right? People are like, how are you able to do what you're doing? Because the wine industry is on a downtrend right now, but somehow, praise God, we've aligned ourselves to be in all the areas where there's uptrends in. The sector where there's growth is wine between $14.99 to $19.99, which is where we're positioned in the retail sector. The growth of ancient world wines from the first vineyards, Armenia being the one, and also having a story that's interesting and exciting behind it, which is your story, Mr. Michael. And when you spoke about why me and why wine, well, your story is a story of transformation. Almost everybody that we meet when we go and you do the book signings, you do the speaking, everybody relates with your story. That's because there's transformation and people see themselves in what you've accomplished in your life. And wine throughout all of ancient history being a symbol of transformation, and Armenia being the birthplace of wine from the first vineyards that were discovered. Nat Geo Wild did an article, Forbes did an article, all the artifacts, all the architecture is found. We said, hey, if there's wine from the world's first vineyards that hasn't been brought to the US, and we could do it and we could put an interesting story, which is real, and an actual story, which is your story, then we do have something unique to bring and offer to the marketplace, and not just be another business and not just be another wine on the shelf, but one that has meaning, some symbolism behind it, and also your story, your legacy, and something that can continue on. So that was definitely a driving force of putting the two together.
Well, yeah, that touched me too, Sam. And by the way, it's fascinating that this is the first wine from the ancient world. And this has been verified, substantiated. It's the truth. And if I put my brand on something, I want to make sure that it's credible when we put it out there. And this has been proven, and it's amazing. And it really is transforming when you think about it. It really is, because we had an entirely new civilization. We had to start from scratch. And I like to look at my story as lining up with this pretty well.
I think so. And to take us back, it's interesting. I was a follower of yours from 10 years old, young age. I loved them all, but I was also a Christian growing up in a Christian family, and hearing your story of transformation and all that you accomplished at a young age to leave it all and go after God. So that really, really touched me. And I was always following you. Whatever you were speaking, I would always want to attend somewhere where I could meet you. And it just never aligned until one time you were speaking at the Vault conference. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time.
Patrick Bet-David.
Yes. Yeah, his conference. So it's an interesting story the way it happens. I have this goal of one day meeting Mr. Michael. That's like on my vision board. That's what I want to do. And it happens to be that on May 1st, you're speaking at Patrick's event. And my family starts off in the pizza industry, and we start doing well. People come in. My dad helps people. They backstab him, take everything away. So we're in the downtrend. And during that time, it's the conference, and I want to have money so I could afford to buy a ticket to come and just hear you speak, not even meet you. I joined my friend's company, Vosgen's company, Kobex at the time, and I started doing door-to-door sales, selling roofs. So April 1st, I started, and I'm like, hey, what do I need to do for you guys to buy me a ticket to this event so I could go see Mr. Michael?
And it was in Dallas.
It was in Dallas.
Dallas, yes.
We're in Sacramento. The event is in Dallas. And he said, well, Sam, the only way I could justify that is if you could do at least $100,000 in sales, which is basically their top line, what their top people do. Because if I could do that, then they could afford to buy a ticket for me. I've never sold anything in roofing. I'm 19 years old at the time. Don't know what a shingle is. Don't know anything. There was a strong desire of meeting you one day. So thank God somehow the miracle happens. I do $150,000 within the first 2 weeks. And Vosgen says, Sam, I'm going to buy 2 tickets. We're both flying out. And you're going to have a chance to meet with Mr. Michael.
Now, let me stop you for a minute. That wasn't a miracle, people. For all you young guys out there, understand determination, willpower, believing in yourself, getting out and doing the work. Nothing, can take the place of hard work and determination. And for all you young people out there, listen, it pays off. There's no free lunches and no free rides. You got to work hard, and this is an example of that.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of lessons to learn. And that's one thing I would tell if anybody wants to start in business and they're young is go get a sales job because you get so much rejections. There's so many obstacles you got to overcome and it just develops a thick skin. So a byproduct of that is the flight gets canceled. We end up buying the tickets. I had a record number of sales. So it's April 30th. The flight gets canceled. So we miss. Then we have to go to the next day. And Boz is like, Sam, you know what? Let's just go. I'm like, no, let's drive down and fly out of San Francisco. Sacramento gets a flight delayed and a flight cancellation. So we drive down to San Francisco and we missed a flight over there too. So mind you, we spent a whole day at airports at this point and we're still trying to get to Dallas. Weather condition, all that stuff got in place. So the second flight, we get on the plane, we fly out. Mr. Michael, as we're coming in, as our Uber drops us off, you're stepping out of the hotel to get into an Uber.
Timing.
Couldn't have timed that, right? You just can't make it up. And I start running at you. I'm like, oh, it's Michael Franzese. And you're like, whoa, what's going on? Because you got this big old 20 or 19-year-old running at you. And I'm like, I've been a big fan for a long time. And we came out here. I just wanted to come and meet you. So you take a photo. We shake hands. We talk a little bit. Ironically, you speak about Napa. You're like, oh, you're in Sacramento. I go up to Napa a lot with my wife, Cami. So I'm like, that's interesting. And then I ask you for your phone number and your email. And you look at me like, my phone number, my email, what do you need it for? I'm like, well, I'd love to be in contact and touch. And you're like, well, how old are you? I'm like, 19. And you said, well, you're bold enough to ask us, so here, take it. And you gave it to me. And that to me was the big highlight of the whole event. I was like, Val's ready to pack up and go back home. I don't need anything else. I got a chance to meet with Mr. Michael and we exchanged information. And then a year later, I was able to reach out to you. That 30-minute lunch turned into 3 hours. We were able to start doing some work together when you were doing slices, pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were able to develop the relationship. But you were really kind enough. You said, hey, you have my contact information. Anything you need, I'm here. And you really started mentoring me. You started giving me life advice, some of the stuff you learned. And I was a big fan of yours meeting you. I became a bigger fan after I met you and the way the relationship started to continue. And then in 2021, when Armenia goes into war, there's a whole story that goes behind it. We see that I personally look at it, okay, what could we do to bring more recognition to this? And we see that, hey, the world's first vineyards were founded in Armenia.
Right.
And we have Mr. Michael's story. And if we put the two together of the world's first wine with the story of transformation, we really bring what wine represents. Wine represents history, philosophy, and transformation. And with the two, we were able to knock both parts out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And, it's a great story for all you young people out there, for anybody of any age, you just can't replace determination and hard work. And, that's the way to reach your goals in life. Like I said, there's no free lunch. But this young man's story, here we are so many years later, in business together that's actually beginning to thrive. And if you weren't so persistent and so determined, this would have never happened.
And Mr. Michael, that goes to you as well. You were kind enough to look at it. I look back now, I'm like, man, what led him to even taking that lunch with me or even giving out his contact? I was naive at the time, right? I just asked. But that also speaks a lot about who you are and the humility you have and just a person. And I could see why you were able to succeed in so many different areas. And people, that's one thing Mr. Michael always teaches me too. Whenever we go out, if you have the chance to see him, whether it's at a Starbucks or a grocery store, the way you deal with the person at the customer service, you make them feel so special. And it's just something that you're always doing is you're making everybody feel special around you. And it attracts more people, and that's why you have the following base that you do, because people see it, people feel it, and that humility of yours is something very inspiring and something I'm learning from every day.
Well, Sam, I learned something in life. This is a crazy story, but I'll tell you about it. And this is when I was younger. You probably don't remember the Shah of Iran. Wealthiest,
Patrick talks about him.
wealthiest guy in the world, had everything at his fingertips. But couldn't save himself from disease and eventually died. Went all around the world, sought the best doctors out and everything. And it made me realize that we are, as human beings, very fragile. Anything can happen at any time. And, at that point, humility became something very special to me because I said, who are we really when life can change on a dime?
Mm.
God forbid an accident, God forbid a disease, God forbid anything can happen. And for any of us to think that we're so much better than another person, it's just wrong. And it just really stuck with me for that. And this was before I was even a Christian. It just really stuck with me, Sam. You got to treat people the right way, you know. If you want respect, you got to give respect, no matter who it is. And I also attribute that to my dad, who always told me, he said, son, always remember this. He said, always be kind and respectful to the little people. Now, he didn't mean that in a demeaning way. It was just his way of saying this. But he said, they're the ones that make you strong. He said, they're the ones that look up to you. There's the ones that appreciate who you are. It's not the people on top that are looking to cut your legs out. And I learned that from being in mob. You don't want to, people at the top level, they're always worried that maybe you're looking for their position. But it's been a lesson in my life, and I realized that. And I think, as godly people, we have to realize that. Jesus was extremely humble, and he had all the power in the world, and that always made an impression on me. So I try to carry myself that way.
That's fascinating. How big of a role did that play? Because you were in your late 20s, early 30s, you had 300 people under you, and you were the youngest person in the group, and you were leading a group of people. What was the role that the humility played, and how were you able to just gather and have so many people dedicated to you and under your call at all times?
Well, again, I think, I attribute that to my dad, who I think in that regard brought me up the right way and told me that, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. You have confidence. I have confidence in my ability and what I can do, but I'm not arrogant about it, and neither are you, and there is a big difference. People don't like arrogance. People respect confidence. Confidence is part of leadership. You have to inspire people to see that, hey, I'm in control, I know what I'm doing, but you got to do it the right way and carry yourself the right way. And I think, and then obviously I was successful. So success attracts people also. So if you can garner those qualities in your life, you can succeed. And, Sam, transformation is not easy. It really isn't. And it was a process for me because I had to change my entire way of thinking. I was a mobster. I'm not taking away from that, and I had that kind of mentality. And to make that transformation, number one, it was a faith-based transformation for me because, again, spiritually, I saw, in Scripture how God related to people, how people related to God. I was very inspired by the manhood and qualities of Jesus. And I always say Jesus of Nazareth because I look at him as a man, and I wanted to try to emulate some of his qualities because I think there was no greater man that ever walked the face of the earth. And anybody that looks at Jesus that way should be inspired just by the type of man he was. Again, forgetting his deity for a moment, just his manhood. He's somebody that we should emulate. And I put the right people around me. I had a loving wife who inspired me. I had a mother-in-law that inspired me. And I want to make it look, I have a big YouTube platform, and, people knock you all the time. It comes with the territory. I understand that, and they have a right to do that. They can do it. I had a 20-year history as a mobster, so people have a right to say what they say. But you have to know within yourself who you are. That's what it's all about, Sam, because the final judgment in life doesn't come from the people here. And we have to be secure in ourselves and who we are and what our motivations are and how sincere that we are. And so I can honestly say my transformation is for real. Doesn't make me perfect, doesn't make me the best person in the world, but my intentions are sincere. And I attribute that, to my own desire to transform, but to the people around me that have helped me.
We're going through a lot of tough times right now, Mr. Michael, and there's people that are having health issues, people that want to have a different career, job, education. I mean, there's just so many people watching this. What advice would you give to someone who feels they're stuck in life? They need to have that breakthrough moment to create that transformation. How does transformation take place? What advice would you give to somebody looking to transform their life?
Well, first of all, you really got to want it, Sam. It
Mm.
can't be, it can't be hopeful. You have to want it. I believe strongly in the human spirit. We have the ability to do a lot if we have the desire and the willpower to do it. And nothing is easy. Things that come easy in life, people don't really appreciate. And I think anybody can verify that. When something is easy, you don't appreciate it. Look, the best athletes in the world that we look up to, when you look in their history, they're the hardest workers. Michael Jordan spent more time in the gym than anybody else. It doesn't come by accident. You look at Tom Brady, you look at all of these people. It's hard work that creates this success. Well, it's the same with transformation. You got to really want it, and you got to seek the avenues that get you there. Now, I knew in transforming my life, I would have to cut ties with my past. I would have to, because I still had some of that mentality, and I didn't want to be influenced by that anymore. So I had to cut my ties. I had to surround myself with the right people that I believe cared about me and wanted to see this transformation happen. And, that's all part of it. And so anybody out there that's looking to make a difference, make a change in their life, remember, you got to be determined. You got to really want it. You got to want it for yourself. You got to want it for the people around you that you care about, so that you can create a new atmosphere for them, a new life for them. I've been able to do that with my family, and then just go for it. And Sam, I have to say this because you give me the opportunity. As a Christian, we believe that there is a heaven and there is a hell. In Christianity, we believe that the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus. If you break it down, I say to people, if that's right, why would you take a chance? Because eternity is forever. So all I ever tell people, explore it for yourself. Because I believe, when you seek the truth and you seriously seek it, you're going to find it. And I always looked at Christianity as a win-win situation because, number one, I told you, and this is part of the transformation, you have to have a goal. You have to have somebody that you want to transform for. You have to have a reason. If I didn't believe in heaven and hell, what would I care? I'm going to go through my life, make the best of it, do what I can. Might have even stayed a mobster. Who knows? Because it was profitable back then. Yeah. If you know what I mean. People know my story, but there's something more to this life. There is an afterlife in my opinion, and there is a heaven and there is a hell. So here's the way I looked at it. First of all, you want to emulate good people, right? You look up to people, hey, I wish I could be like them. You want to emulate them.
Sorry, quick funny story on that. I always emulate Mr. Michael on a lot of things, and it's not that I'm trying to copy you, but I just like everything you do. So then I put it into my own practice. Recently, you were in a car accident, and then a week later,
I hope you didn't emulate that.
a week later, I get into the same accident, and on my way here, and Mr. Michael looks at the car. It's like, Sam, I know you like doing what I do, but you didn't have to copy this one.
I know. That was funny. And almost the same accident.
Same accident. So
on the freeway. It was
on the
crazy.
freeway.
But fortunately, nobody got hurt. But so here's how I looked at it. I look at the character of the manhood of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, for all you non-Christians, Jesus was a man. There's no dispute about that. Historical figure, without a doubt. And there's evidence to that outside of Scripture, okay? It's true fact. And you look at him and you say, well, he was a great man in every sense. So if I try to emulate a great man, that's great. I'm going to benefit throughout my whole life. People around me are going to benefit by me copying or emulating the greatest person, in my view, that ever walked the face of the earth. And you could look at other people and say the same thing. There's some great people out there. For me, my model is Jesus. And if what Scripture says is true, that the only way to get to all of eternity in heaven forever is through Jesus Christ, well, what do you have to lose?
Nothing.
It's a win-win situation. I always like to cut my odds down to the best possible odds of winning. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's right, because the facts bear it out, And look, I did a tremendous search on this, Sam, and and there are people out there. I want to speak directly to you. The people out there that say, "Oh, religion to you, it's just another scam and all of that." Don't worry about it, because if it is a scam, I'm going to pay the price, and it's going to be a price that I can never undo. So don't even worry about that. God has a way of taking care of that, but you don't want to mess with eternity.
No.
You don't want to mess with eternity. And this is all about this transformation that we're talking about. So for me, it's real. And that's why I thought it was a perfect alignment with the wine. I love the historical story of it. I love the fact that verified that it is the first wine under the new civilization. Absolutely a transforming story. I think it aligns well with my story, and that's why I went along with it. That and the fact that, look, you're a good person. You have a great family. I see how hard they work. I think there is the similarities between Italians and Armenians. We're all about family. And it just matched up right. And I think the progress that we're making bears that out.
Well, praise God, Mr. Michael. Thank you. And to add to that about transformation, a lot of times people think transformation just happens overnight. It's something that happens. And one scene I like to bring in is when we look at Rocky, right? And we see the scene of him training before he's fighting, whether it's Ivan Drago or the Apollo, is we think all that takes 1 or 2 days of him just training. But no, it's months and years. And the same thing with us. How long did it take for you? Because people get discouraged. They think, oh, I'm going to set a goal. And if it doesn't happen within a week, they think that's it. And they go back to their failures. They think it's supposed to happen instantly. But how long did your transformation take, and how many years did you have to battle the temptations of some of the habits that you had and to really, really change?
So my transformation is ongoing until this day, and it'll continue to the rest of my life because, look, we live in the world and we have distractions at times. There's no question. And there are times when I bounce back. Get angry or whatever, you bounce back and you still think the old mentality. That's why it's so important to surround yourself with the right people that keep you on track. This is not a solo deal. We're not in this alone, and we have so many distractions today that can bring us back, that can snap us back. If we see a failure in something that we do we get discouraged and say, oh, you know what, I could have done it better the old way? And you have to say, no, can't do that. And then the people around you say, you better not do that. You know what I mean? That's why I have a wife, that keeps me straight, my kids that keep me straight, and people around me. I don't want to make a mistake that'll affect anything that we're doing now. So all these things are important, and they keep you balanced, and they keep you guided, keep you on the right path. So don't get discouraged, people. This is a work in progress. We're all works in progress every single day of our lives, and it'll be until we end our life here.
So it's important to have a supporting community around you.
Absolutely.
People that will hold you accountable, because you just can't do it yourself. Or if you can, but it's going to be a lot harder. But if there's a community of people around you that are supporting you, that are helping you, keeping you on track, forgiving if you step out, that's when you could have a transformation.
100%. It's what I tell young people all the time. There's two things you got to be very concerned with in life. Number one, you are who you hang out with. If you hang with the wrong crowd, you're going to be known to be the wrong type of person, and of course they're going to influence you. You hang with the right crowd, they're going to look at you differently, and they're going to influence you in the right direction. When I was in the mob, what was I? I was hanging around with the wrong people all the time. As a result, I'm a criminal, right? I'm not blaming them. This is who I chose to be with. Accountability, so important in life. Who we are accountable to is going to direct the path that we lead in our life. Accountability is everything, Sam. Again, at one time, I'm accountable to my oath. I'm accountable to my boss. And so again, criminal activity. And I thought it was the right thing to do at that point. It's the wrong way of thinking, distorted way of thinking. Now I'm accountable to God first, accountable to my wife, to my children, to people that rely on me now because I built a platform. So, and that's the secret. And it's not a secret, but that's the key, I should say.
It's interesting, Mr. Michael, talking about transformation and how it takes time and accountability and the people around. There's a reason wine throughout history has symbolized transformation. Because just like wine when the seed is planted, you can't water the seed. If for some of you who aren't familiar with the winemaking process, the way it happens is when the seed is planted, the root needs to go down deep until it can find water.
Right.
So the higher elevation you have and the lower the water, the deeper the root has to go down, and the bigger fruit you get as a byproduct of it. You don't water grapes. You let it go down, find it, just like a person has to go down deep to find the meaning in life
Exactly.
worth transforming for. And I think it's also ironic how, the first miracle Jesus did was turn water into wine.
Yes.
Wine was the symbol of that represented his blood when they had the Last Supper. So there's a lot of resemblance there, and I think it's a big part of history. I mean, we look at wine, so Armenia is known to be where the world's first vineyards were discovered, where Noah planted, the first vineyard, and there's all the artifacts that have been found with it. It's the perfect region for wine growing. And the other part that wine played is they used grapes to divide the territories, whether it was cities or whether it was the borderline with surrounding countries. Grapes were planted, and as a byproduct, they made wine out of those grapes. So it was used to divide and showcase territories before we had Google Maps and we could zoom in and see all that. But having the high altitude, there's no ocean around Armenia, so you have very high altitude, low sea level, 6,000 feet up is where the vineyards are, and rocky mountains. So the rocks absorb the heat during the day, and during the night they're able to transfer the heat over, so the grapes are able to stay warm even during the cool nights. 9 months of sun, 3 months of snow creates the perfect climate for winemaking, and hence why it was discovered from that region. You get a very fruit forward, you get a little bit of an earthy finish, but very fruit forward. It's bolder than your typical wines due to the climate and where the region it grows from. And it creates a very unique product, and that's why people are really liking it. The restaurants, the accounts that we're entering, we're getting a lot of reorders. People are liking the product, and the region that it comes from plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, and I was, let's say, very happy to see that it's one of the regions, Armenia is, that's becoming popular here in the United States. I like to think we have had something to do with that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we're the leaders in bringing Armenian wine here. And what I read recently, it's one of the 7 regions, I believe, that's really coming into play in the U.S. So it's exciting. People are looking for something more than the Napa Valley wines and the traditional French and Italian wines. I think wines from Argentina becoming popular, but Armenia is one of those regions. So, and look, everybody that we've had try the wine really enjoy it. Sam, I've been drinking wine since I'm 10 years old. I always saw wine and family together. My grandfather in Brooklyn, my dad was one of 19 kids. I have more cousins than you can imagine. At 10 years old, hey, sit down, drink this wine. We were drinking wine at 10 years old. We had the whole backyard. We had this long backyard. I'll never forget my grandfather and my grandmother. Every Sunday, every holiday, we all had to be together. And we were all drinking wine. And I always associate wine with family. I always associate wine with good gatherings. Even when I was in that life, every time we sat down for a banquet and everything, we had wine, always. And I look at wine that way. And it's been part of, my family. We all drink wine here. And for those of us that, oh, Michael, you're a Christian, you're promoting wine. Yeah, well, so did Jesus.
It's
The first miracle on behalf of his mother was changing water into wine. And some of the Christians out there, well, Michael, wine you can get drunk on wine. Well, listen, nobody promotes that. And we all know that anything can be abused, anything in life. Anything in life can be abused. But I don't look at wine that way, and hopefully we don't see people doing that.
To add to that, Mr. Michael, one good thing about our Armenia, especially our wines, is since Armenia has black soil, it's very rich in oxygen, the volcanic soil. So you get a high concentration of sugar from one-time fermentation. So a lot of wineries, they need to ferment it a couple times to get the sugar and the yeast to turn into the alcohol. Ours goes through one-time fermentation, and there's no added preservatives. There's no added sulfite. So you don't get a hangover, you don't feel bad, and you don't really necessarily get drunk the way you would do with product that has artificial yeast added, artificial sugar added to create more alcohol.
Right.
So it's more of a natural process. And one of my one of the favorite things I heard from a sommelier is, Sam, drinking your wine is like eating fruit, while drinking the wine we have right now is like eating candy.
Mm,
And I said, well, I'll take that. I'm gonna use it. So it definitely plays a role in the way that it's made and the benefits that it has, because wine is also one of the healthier drinks across the
it
drink
is,
category that has health benefits. But again, we never promote drunkenness. We never want people
of
to
course.
go over their limit. It's just the right amount that you're able to soothe out on a day, celebrate victory, spend time with the family, and share a story of transformation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was very impressed with the fact that when you explain that process, that there is less fermentation involved in Armenian wine, which is great. And I'm excited about the non-alcoholic
Oh,
wine
that's
that we're bringing in. That is, non-alcoholic beer now has become a number one seller, and I think non-alcoholic wine is going to do the same in the industry. And I love the process that we have because the taste is really going to be there because of the way our non-alcoholic wine is processed.
And one thing for the people is the non-alcoholic wine actually costs more money to make than the alcoholic wine,
Mm,
because we're not just taking grape juice. We're making it the same way that the wine is made, and what's being done is the alcohol is being extracted out of it.
mm,
So you're getting the alcohol removed. So you're not just drinking grape juice, you're getting real wine with zero, 0.5 alcohol. There is a little bit that has remained with the lab testing, but it's considered non-alcohol, and it's a complete different process for bringing the product in. And we'll be able to ship to all 50 states. People won't have to sign for it, so it's going to
right.
create things a lot easier. We'll be on the shelves, and we'll become a product that everybody and anybody could consume
Yeah.
and share a story of transformation, because that's essentially what the brand is we want the brand to become something that just symbolizes transformation and inspires people to want to transform the way your life story has, and the way Armenia, a country that dates back 6,000 years of history, genocide, and through a lot of tough times, but has had the resilience to survive. And it tells a lot of the history of the people and the history of yours, and putting the two together and now letting people become a part of it.
No, it's very exciting, and I'm really thrilled with your work effort and how we've really progressed over the past 2 years. And I think what do we have coming up next?
I mean, there's a lot of exciting things happening. One thing is we're now in with Kroger, so people could go to Ralph's, the Kroger store in Michigan, or Mariano's in Illinois. We're really expanding. We're taking the brand national, guys, and we want to take this across the nation, become one of the biggest wine brands in the country. We're definitely one of the fastest growing ones right now.
Yes.
We want to become the biggest. We want to be a part of every family gathering. We want to be a part of every table, and we want to hear the great stories of transformation that happen through across social media platforms. We have a lot of really cool things coming out, whether it's the augmented reality of you being on the bottle, which will happen sooner than later, the non-alcoholic wine coming, and just the expansion across different states, different chains. We want to be across all the major markets, and Kroger's one of the great partners that we have, and an interesting story of how that came to be.
Well, I know also Mario Lopez has us now in what 600,000 hotel rooms across the country, if I'm not mistaken. He loved the wine, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, great guy, great people. We're expanding. We're going all across, and there's actually talking about expansion. If you're watching this before March 29th, March 30th, we do have an opportunity for people to get involved and become a part owner of Francie's Wine, become
Yep.
part of the legacy. We've actually hit our goal, whatever goals we had set, and we opened that up. The reason Mr. Michael opened that up is to let people become a part of the legacy, to join and have the opportunity to reap the rewards that come with it. So if you're interested, there's links below, or you could go to opportunity.franceswine.com. Before March 29th is our deadline. But we're letting people join and become part of the legacy, become part of the story, and a brand that we're going to take across all nation and become a great American success story.
Yeah, and I've been really satisfied with the feedback that we've been getting to all the associates that we've, have become part of Franzese Wine. And they're out there talking about it, they're drinking it, they're getting just great stories about their families getting together and enjoying it. And look, we want everybody to be a part of it. And one thing that you and I have, want to let people know, that when we reach a certain point, which is coming very shortly, there are certain causes that are dear to me and dear to you that we want to support. This is not only a business for us, but it's kind of a ministry.
Yeah.
You know, anything that I do, there has to be some ministry aspect involved. And there's causes that are dear to me that we are going to support with Franzese Wine. We certainly entertain that from anyone else. If we think the cause is something we can support, we'll throw our support behind it, and that's important.
Absolutely. A lot of causes that align with your story as well, with the transformation. I know there's one thing that's really deep to your heart, Mr. Michael, if you want to speak up on it, but I feel there's a lot of the manliness is disappearing. We are the young men, the strong people that we used to have, the respect for women is getting diminished. People are just spending time on social media. And that's a battle that I think we also want to fight too. And Franzese Wine is going to help support, is bringing that manliness and bringing in what it means to be a good man, to be a good woman, and families bringing all of that back. And that's going to be another thing that we really get behind.
Oh, absolutely. And Sam, you're an example of that, of men that behave like men, the way men should. And please, when I say that, you know, the detractors jump on and take it like we're demeaning women in some way. Look,
No.
I hold my wife in very high regard. She's on a pedestal to me, and so are my 5 daughters. You know, I place them in a whole different category. And my job is to support them. My job is to protect them. My job is to honor them in a way. And that's what we want men to be. You know, just do your role. That's it. And not only in that regard, but, you know, go out and be a benefit to the world. Like whatever you're doing here now, you know, the fact that you're seeing success, you're going to be a benefit to the world. You're going to be a benefit to the country, to your community. And that's what we need men to do. And yes, that is a very dear cause to me, because what I see going on today, Sam, is very hard to accept, you know, and that's a cause that we are going to support. All you young men out there, or all you fathers that are raising up young men, you know, pay attention to this. It's important. We need men to be men today, and we're going to do our part. I do it already, but we're going to do our part in supporting that and make sure that it happens in the best way that we can provide for that.
Anybody who supports the brand Franzese Wine, whether you go online to franzesewine.com, you see the product on the shelf at a store and you decide to pick it up, or even become a part of our program before March 30th, then you're also joining that cause and whatever we do. And also there's going to be a lot of benefits that are associated with it. I want to turn this into that, but yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening, Mr. Michael, and I also want to thank you for all the work that you're putting behind the brand. People don't really see it, but there's so much travel, there's so many things you're doing, attending meetings, key decision makers, and things are going well, and we've had the success we've had. Praise God, but also due to the level of work you're putting in, and also the work that we have our people. We have a great team, a great group of people behind the brand.
Oh, and remember, you're only as good as the team you have around you. And we have a great one, and we have more people coming on board. And yeah, this is not just me in name only. This is a commitment that I've made, and you know, we're committed to seeing it very successful, going it all the way with it. And what else can I say? It's an offer that no one should refuse. A glass of Franzese wine.
It's a legacy we're building.
Yes.
Talking about legacy, to wrap it up, what are 3 things that you've learned throughout the past, 40, 50 years of going from being, one of the youngest mobsters of all time to being the second biggest money maker, to then finding God, transforming the life, becoming a family man? And here's another thing, people, about Mr. Michael. He's been successful in everything he's done. I'm like, how many people do you know that were able to succeed in the mob? Then they were able to step out and become successful in sharing the gospel, then become successful in raising a great, beautiful family, and become successful on YouTube, become successful in different businesses. It's like whatever you've gotten into, you've been able to succeed. What are some lessons you could share with me and along with the audience as well that could help?
I've said this to you in the past, and you're a great representation of that. Whenever you're out there pushing a product, the first product you're pushing is yourself. People have to like you. People have to want to get involved with you. People have to be interested in you. And I think I've been fortunate in that. I don't know what I attribute it to. You know, maybe it's something innate. Maybe it's something I've worked on. But fortunately, you know, people like to be around me. And, maybe it's a question of humility and making people feel comfortable around you. That's been very, very important. Obviously, determination. There's things that have happened that I could have never planned. I never planned to be on YouTube. Never planned. As a matter of fact, I fought it. I wasn't that smart. It was my team that said, you need to be on YouTube. I don't want to be on social media. No, you need to do it. So I listened. It took me 2 months to come aboard, but I said, okay, maybe you guys are smarter than me, and they were. And we were able to build a successful channel there. Ministry. Never wanted to be involved in ministry because I couldn't see the name Michael Franzese next to ministry. Of course, this was 25 years ago, and I was still coming out of the mob stuff. But God led me in that direction, and it turned out to be, I think, my calling in life. So once I saw that, I said, okay, now I'm going to go for it. So sometimes it's just a question of recognizing that something is happening, that this may be meant to be for you, and then pursuing it properly. So I don't consider myself the smartest guy around, but when I see something happening, okay, I take the tiger by the tail and I run with it. I think that's been the story. And again, having the right people around me, Sam, to just support me in the right way. And look, there's some things that I'm not good at, and I won't even bother. You can't micromanage. You cannot micromanage. And I'll tell you this, people, for all of you out there, people have said, Michael, you're a brilliant businessman because you've succeeded in all of these different things. I'm not a brilliant businessman. There's some things that I just won't do and I don't do well, and I'm not going to attempt it. But I know how to put the right people in place and get the most out of them, motivate them. And that was a big part of whatever success that I had. So, I don't know if those are 3 things, but hopefully you get something out of what I just said. But, it's a formula for success, everything that I've put together. And again, believing in myself. I believe that if I put my mind to something, I can get it done. And I'm very realistic with my goals. I'm very realistic. I know what I can achieve, and I know what's not attainable. And that's important. You gotta be realistic in what you're pursuing in life.
Well, it's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And as somebody, being 10 years old, being a fan of yours and growing up, and then having the opportunity to meet with you, and now we're in business together, growing one of the biggest wine brands, it's been a highlight, and it's been a real meaningful and impactful part of my life. Being around you, seeing the way you do things, seeing the way you treat people, the way you make decisions, and you're definitely somebody very special, very unique, and I'm sure from the audience and for myself, we're thankful for you.
Well, I appreciate that. But for all of you out there, the story really is this young man who, at a very young age, started to have goals in his life and started to pursue them. And as a result, you're going to be very successful. Had you not met me, you would be successful. There's no question in my mind. I know you told me you wanted to be a billionaire by the age of 30. It's great to have that goal because you're pursuing it the right way. And, that might be attainable. But if you miss that mark, you're going to get close to it. I can see it. And hopefully Franzese Wine plays a big role in that. So, and what did I tell you? I said I'm more, I want to see this company win more for you than I do for myself.
And it goes the opposite from my side. It's pretty.
Yes,
So
well,
that's
hopefully
how we do it together.
hopefully each of our desires works, and it turns out that way. Brother,
Perfect. Thank you,
God
Mr.
bless you,
Michael.
and
God
thank
bless
you again.
Thank you.